Welcome to the Inside View and welcome Lauren Darnell. Hi, Lauren.
Hi.
Thank you so much for taking the time in your crazy busy schedule to join us and share with us. Well, we'll find out what you're about to share in this conversation. Nothing's planned out, so here we go. So why don't we just start off with you sharing a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. I'm Lauren. I live in New Orleans, Louisiana. I'm a mom of a 7-year-old, and I run a nonprofit organization. I've also taught yoga and been working with the space since 2015.
Okay. All right. And how did you come upon us?
So I met you in London.
Mm-hmm.
I was teaching yoga at a studio in London, and you came over from Italy to practice with Dylan Ayalou. And so I remember meeting you there, and then became Facebook friends. And then I can't tell if it was you reached out or I reached out. You definitely reached out at some point, but I knew that you were teaching yoga in Italy and doing things in Italy that I was curious about. And so you reached out and said that you were starting a program called Free to Breathe with the incredible David Norris of that I had worked with in the past. And so I was so curious about this program, and which I've told you repeatedly, to have big balls to say and create a program with David Norris. I was really like in awe of that. And just in awe of curious of what was happening in Como, Italy. So
All right, so that was the very beginning. Now we'll like fast forward to today, yeah?
yeah.
And if you could describe what your life was like prior to beginning your growth process with the space,
Mm.
and today, what is the biggest shift you've observed in yourself or in your experience of life?
Um, I mean, God, I think, you know, I have so much more love for myself and acceptance and patience. I mean, there's more that I can, there's a long way to go, but I think of where I was, it was very hard on myself, very critical, doing a lot, pushing and trying to sort of reach this lifestyle or this life that I thought would make me happy.
Mm,
And now, just there's just there's a greater ease with how I'm experiencing my life and my relationships, with family, with friends, with my partner. There's just so many ways in which this conversation, my experience with the space, has informed and has supported so much, specifically just in patience with myself and more,
mm.
and really allowing an experience of love and of life, and to just an appreciation of being alive. And I think that sounds very dramatic, and I mean it to be, because as I've grown with the space and as I've grown in life, they're not separate. As I've grown, I just feel there's a difference in just how I experience life and experience myself, and there's more love present.
Okay. So these past 2 years have been quite particular, and you've been invested in your growth since I knew you the very first time I met you. And you're a single mom and you have your career, and there's a lot of demands. So how is it that you create the space for you to continue like you just so poignantly spoke to, I haven't arrived yet.
Mm,
There's always a possibility for growth on the next level. And so for those listening and curious about, wow, how does she create the time and space over such a long period of time? What makes you continue to reinvest in yourself? Not
mm.
throw in the towel, or I don't know, say, done with this, check, next thing.
I mean, it's definitely not logical. It's definitely not like I couldn't explain it. I'll definitely try. Yeah, it's not logical. I think that there's something that a greater calling. I really felt called when you reached out that very first time to come to Free to Breathe. I felt a calling. There was so much that did not feel right in my life. And there was so much that just felt off. And I knew that there was something else possible. And I didn't know exactly what it was. And so every time there's an invitation, every time there's an opportunity, I'm always scared. I mean, I'm never like, oh yeah, this is going to be great. And even if I am like that, I'm lying. I think that there's part of my being has a desire for continued learning. And so there's always more learning to experience. And I find that the conversation with the space, all the offerings that the space has is just a different way at learning more about myself, about life, about things I had no idea that I was doing, or it's just continued learning. So I know that at the end of it, something is going to shift. And even if, so yeah, it's not logical. I mean, I think that there were times where it was like, ooh, this feels really difficult. Like I don't have the money. I have no idea how I'm going to get the money. I don't have the time. I have to leave my child for a bit of time. Like, everyone thinks I'm crazy. Like, what am I doing? But I knew deep in my heart that like this was going to benefit me, and thus benefit my son, benefit all the relationships, benefit my career. Like, I can't, to quote Drake, started from the bottom, now we're here. Like, I really was at a place where I wasn't taking responsibility for myself. I just knew that there was something bigger than not bigger for me, but there was something else. And so it spoke to a side of me that was just like, this is in your heart to do and to
Mm,
experience. So that
mm,
happens every time. I just like, everything's like, nope, you don't have time, don't do it. And then it's like, well, actually, I think you could. And like, how awesome would it be if you actually could make this work? And the things that I've made work with you have been incredible. And they've
mm.
taught me that like, I don't have to limit myself. I remember, our 9-day teacher training, the last teacher training, right? Because of COVID, we did it online. So 9 days of online, getting up at 4 in the morning every day. And like, it was totally illogical, but I loved it. And people were like, what are you doing? And it didn't matter because I knew why I was doing it. I knew I was supporting something larger than myself. And after I did that 9 days, I was like, I can do, what time do you want to schedule a meeting? Like, it just didn't faze me, because I knew that there was more available than what I initially thought about myself and about what I was capable of. So
Okay, so you used to have to get on a plane and leave your child to come to programs and also to assist programs. And in the last 2 years, because of the pandemic, we've gone fully online. So would you be willing to speak to how you've experienced that shift?
yeah, that's crazy. I mean, I think I say crazy because I would travel. I would get on a plane, and it was about I think, I don't know, 18 or 27 hours. I forget the exact number of hours from my door to an Airbnb door. or your door. And in Como was like, I think it was like exactly like 27 hours to T of travel. And I think um, with the pandemic and everything shifting online, to be able to open my computer and see smiling faces or see faces and practice with you and with everyone that I would, have to journey in order to see, it just like, it boggles my mind, because I feel so thankful because I'm able, before I'd have to leave for, a week more, 14 days at the max, and then come back and then reintegrate myself. And, of course, travel is great for reflection and all of those things. I think the difference now is that it's so embedded and integrated in my daily life. If I'm lucky and make the space for a class, a noon class, which is your evening class on a Monday, I feel like it's such a cherry, such a sweet gift and then I finish class, I go back to my day. And I've been able to take care of myself and do something that I love, within the space of my day. And then I pick up my son, and, it's just a more integrated experience. So, to have access to the quality of learning and experience with you and with all the offerings through my Zoom, like, it's incredible. And I think I'm on Zoom a lot. So I'm on Zoom every day, most days. And it has helped my experience of Zoom, because I know that you can actually connect with someone and it doesn't have to be this dull, dry, robotic experience. You can create so much with another human through this medium. So yeah, I have more money, more spare funds, so that's good. I miss Como terribly, of course, and miss hugging and seeing you in person. But I know that we're still connected, and I feel like even though the distance has not changed, I feel closer. I feel closer and connected to this work, because I'm able to connect, every other day, or the offerings that are there. So, as well as offer to teach too. It's, I could never teach with the space besides when I was there, and now I can offer to teach.
Now you're doing it live with people from all over.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what made you want to be in this conversation today? Like, to put yourself out there to the public and talk about this work in your own path of growth?
It has meant so much to me. My life looks a completely, like, it's unrecognizable from what it was before. I feel like I've peeled 12 layers of myself away. And it's been so good. It's been so good. And there's small moments throughout my day that are reminders of what I've learned with the space, or what I've discovered about myself, or what I've been supported to discover about myself. How I cook my food, how I feed myself, how I feed others. My capacity to listen when people are going through tough things. It's very easy before I would kind of get lost in trying to save someone, and I've had the experience of being supported through really, really difficult times in my life through the space. And I feel like it's taught me how to be a stand for that for others. And so if I can support someone who's going through something and needs something else, just to lighten the weight, but also to get to know themselves more and to experience what I'm experiencing, like sign me up for it. I think I'm often challenged in how I express my gratitude and my experience of the space. And so I'm totally up for new ways of being able to share it, so that it can support if this is calling, or if this is, someone is going through, and you don't have to be going through a tough time. But you know, it offers so much. And so that's why I accepted the invitation happily
And
to
we're
talk.
so grateful that you did. We are so grateful that you did.
Yeah.
You're an extremely generous spirit, and we recognize that. So you spoke to lightness and darkness just a moment ago.
Hmm.
And I don't know about you, but it's been my experience that often um, when people have this idea of doing some level of depth of work on themselves equates heaviness and darkness. And so,
Yeah.
a very common phrase in English is, oh, I just don't want to go there, right? As if, one equals the other. So do you want to speak to your experience around the experience you've had around navigating, as you said just a few minutes ago, and you got a little, teary-eyed and choked up in the throat. Speaking to, you've been through some really challenging experiences in your life. Now, one doesn't have to be in a challenging experience to approach this work, but oftentimes that's what actually like pushes us, gives us that nudge to take that leap because of the challenge. One can be in a good place, but from your experience, can you speak to the lightness, the darkness, that preconceived notion that depth equals heaviness and darkness?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I would say that prior to the work with the space, um, no, that I don't think that'll get at it.
Take your time.
And in getting to know myself and learning all of who I am and what I am not, it's required um, it's required a willingness to go and explore areas, those dark sides, I would say. So I would speak to darkness in that way. If those are dark sides of my being, or things I'm not proud of, or there's like, so these lower energy things of guilt and shame and all these things. And rather than saying, oh, guilt is bad or shame is bad, I've learned, through the space, that there's no judgment. It's just a different flavor. It's just, shame has a different flavor than joy. Guilt has a different flavor, than excitement. It's just an experience that I'm having. And so in removing the sort of judgments and attachments to lightness and darkness, or giving associations, which would be considered normally a darker emotion or darker side of your being, it's allowed me to be with those emotions and feelings, and recognize that they have a very distinct flavor. And so I'm able to get closer and to be curious about, like, well, why am I feeling guilt right now? Is there something to feel, or it's okay to feel good. That's how I feel right now. So I'm feeling guilty. So, okay, we're going to sit in this guilt and see where it leads. So there's been a learning to access these other parts of myself, which I feel has helped me to learn more about myself, because to learn that I've got all this shame that's hanging out around here, and I'm curious on, well, what is that about? And so it's allowed me to accept the fullness of who I am, by not associating it being a dark thing or a bad thing or a wrong thing. And I've learned a lot about myself, and still learning of, I'm always trying to get things right, and always trying to do the right thing and get it together. And which is very tiring.
I loved
Takes a
all
lot
the
of
hand
time.
gestures there.
So, because of that, without a willingness to explore all of that, I'm continually caught in doing those things that I do, that stop me from experiencing all these other wonderful things.
Right.
When I getting so, and I would say the same thing with lightness, right? So like I'm having a good day, or today's a great day, like I'm feeling the lightness today, or I'm feeling really good, or I'm feeling light. It doesn't matter, because if I associate that, then it takes away from, so then what, tomorrow when I'm not feeling good, like that's bad. No,
Mm,
it's just I'm feeling different today. And so
mm,
rather than living sort of on this like sliding scale of like bad, good, wrong, and this is rather than living on that, I've just sort of living. And
yeah.
so today is particularly beautiful in New Orleans. We've got a hint of fall, a hint. Uh, it's a cool breeze.
Mhm.
It feels good. It feels great. But the other day when it was raining buckets, it's not a bad day either. It's just raining today, and that's what's happening. And obviously the rain actually contributes to the fact that we have cool weather today. So it's a part of life and it's all connected. So it doesn't matter anyway. But I mean, that's what I would say about sort of lightness and darkness. I mean, I think I definitely have had, and I've had, and still have experiences that just like leave me totally flat out. Like I can't get out of bed, can't move. And to be able to experience myself and give myself permission to feel that way, and just show up however I'm showing up, without, having me like, Lauren, you got to show up a different way today. And it's like, nope,
Right.
this is my very best. This is all I
Right.
got. Um,
So has it enabled you to, rather than putting on an act or playing a role, has it
mm,
enabled you to simply relate to people because you're able to relate to yourself?
I would, yes, but it's not
Uh-huh.
even conscious, right? Like I didn't even know that that's what it was going to yield. Does that make sense? I didn't know
Yes,
that's
sure.
what, I didn't know that was, um,
Going to
I
be the
had a
fruit of
very,
it.
yeah, I had a very recent experience. I mean, Hurricane Ida has affected everyone in New Orleans, Louisiana. But particularly, I'm responsible and accountable to my board of directors for work. And old Lauren would have been like, yep, I'm gonna work and I'm gonna figure this out. And it was like, nope, my brain is fried. I have to make sure my family's okay. Our offices will be closed until in 2 weeks, and then we will all regroup and we'll make sure that we can do what we need to do. I would never have had that courage to show that vulnerability, that like I'm stressed out, I'm worried, and there's some things I need to take care of. Um, and the response from everyone was like, yep, absolutely, we understand, no problem. How can we help? It was a really that's new. That's new for me to admit, like I need some help. I can't do this on my own. Um,
Wow.
yeah, yeah,
Wow.
yeah, yeah.
And how did that feel?
It felt good. It felt good. And it was less drama, because I said it, I did what I need to do, and then I could just move to the next thing, which was to take care of myself so that I can be able to, take care of others.
I
Um,
imagine that wasn't easy. Imagine there was some fear there in taking
oh,
that approach. Yeah.
totally. Fear of
Mm,
losing a job, fear,
sure.
yeah, so much fear of, oh, she can't do this. Um, and yeah, that's what's been so lovely, is that like I get to take a pause. Like I deserve and earn, like I get to take a pause back. And I'm even better after I take the pause. Like I'm even
Oh, the
more
pause.
even more able to do what I really want to do, because I'm on 2 feet. I'm grounded. I'm rested. I'm not stressed out. And not make myself feel wrong or bad about it. It's just like I don't want to live completely stressed out, frazzled all the time, which I
Yes, that's not
know
fun.
very much. I don't
That's
want to
fun
do
for nobody involved.
that.
So, so let's speak to the pause, shall we? I mean, I know myself that I actually must carve out time and space and give myself permission to create that pause, to practice self-care so that I can show up for others in my life and in the world, right? So if somebody is listening to this and is saying, I just don't have time, like I'd like to, sounds great and wonderful. Like, what would you say to someone around creating that pause? And then if they were to create that pause and they're drawn to trying something out that we offer, what would you suggest?
Um,
That's a twofold question, obviously.
yeah, no, yeah, a good question. Um, I would say you are worth it. I would say you deserve it. And I would say that um, whatever excuse or whatever, and not, I don't say excuse like to minimize, because whatever things you have going on, you deserve a moment um, to collect yourself and to um, allow space and time for you, period. I think I think that is, you're worth it. I think for me, a lot of times when, and I still work with this and boundaries and setting up space, absolutely. It comes down when when I sacrifice my personal time, when I sacrifice it, it's down to my worthiness. Like I don't think that I'm worth this time. And I want to make sure that I get this done. And it's like, no, you're worth it. Like you deserve, and you can treat yourself in this way. Because I think self-care is I mean, that's a whole other conversation, and how, we look at self-care, and um the to really show care for yourself is to do things uncomfortable to make sure you have the space and time that you need. um you know yeah, I could say a lot more, but that's what I would say.
Might be another episode
Yeah.
but before you answer the second part of the question, would you speak to just a moment what is your experience when you carve out that time for self-care as opposed to when you don't? What do you notice is the greatest difference?
I was thinking about this morning, which is,
Hmm.
yeah.
How did I know?
I mean, because here's the thing, I would often like make myself feel guilty if I didn't practice every day, or I didn't practice every other day, or I was like, I really like beat myself up about it. And that's not fun. But it's also like, I notice, and I've been able to observe, if I'm not creating space and time for myself, things tend to get frazzled, and I do feel like I'm running around. I get all stuck in my head. I get all stuck in my head, and there's a lot of I'm way more an increase in my anxiety. Um, and things feel can feel overwhelming, and I can see it. I'm like more reactive, I'm like more antsy. My like, it's sort of like is a little like thread that like pulls, and the whole sweater like falls apart. Like that's, that's sort of what happens.
Mm.
But I've given, I'm giving myself permission to be like, all right, you don't have time today, so what can you create today that is going to feed you in the way that you need to be fed today? And sometimes it's laying on my back, or massaging my feet, or taking time and space to make a nice meal. Like it can look a lot of different ways. It doesn't just be getting on my mat. Maybe it's having a conversation. I haven't told you, I've like started playing the piano.
Oh,
So, very
wonderful.
random, but I find it really relaxing, and it's something that takes me out of my head and puts me in my body, and I'm moving and breathing, and so it can look many different ways. So when I do make the time, there's a significant difference. um
So the antithesis of the sweater that's unraveling when you don't create the space, what's the image you would describe when you do create the space?
I was gonna say there's no sweater. Um, um, yeah, I think mise en place. So there's like a term of like everything in its place
Mhm.
um, in cooking and
Able to be just with things as they are.
yeah, yeah. There's just a greater ease in how I'm managing life. Um, because things are still happening all the time.
Sure.
Um, it gives me greater access to that sort of well of patience and non-reactivity and um, adaptability, flexibility, which is definitely needed daily.
So, so back to that second half of that question, if someone's never worked with the body mind before and
Mm.
they're just saying, something's resonating with me and what Lauren's saying, what would you suggest they try on?
Um, I mean, I think I love the wellness series or any series because there's a consecutive amount of time. I think when you can take one class or do one workshop and it may give you something, truly. I mean, I'm excited. Um, I love all the series that we did last year, and
With
even
special sessions you're referring to,
the special
right?
session. Yeah, thanks. Yeah,
Series,
special
yeah.
session because there was this like consistency. And so I was able to say, okay, from this date to this date, I am focused on this is what's happening every Sunday, every Sunday, this is the time. So it helped me to like carve out a larger amount of space so I could really delve in. And then what
Mhm.
would happen is the series would end and then I would continue and carry on because I was seeing the benefits of setting this time once a week. And even to be in reflection through the week on a particular theme or whatever we were focused on, it just added so much value to my life.
Mhm.
And then I found myself, talking, to my mom about it. I'd say, oh, you should, how is this showing up for you? And it informed my conversations and it was really lovely. So I would say jump in. say, I would say jump in.
Now,
Um,
the number one hindrance, I think, for many people around the special sessions is like, oh, I don't, that's a lot of time for me to dedicate. I don't know if I have that. What would you say to that?
I would say it's step by step. You figure it out as you go. If your
Mhm.
commitment is there, and the commitment is not to you or to the space, the commitment is for yourself. Like it was for myself of, I'm going to commit this time. Like even my son now, my son now knows, like he's like, I'm like, all right, I'm going to do yoga session. He's like, okay, like he's all trained up on it. Like he gets it, and
Respect
that's
that
because I've
space.
created, yeah, because, and I also, share with him as we've talked about, like, mommy needs some time so that I can be a better mommy. That's totally fair. I mean, my God, any partner, husband, wife, if you're like, I'll be back and I'll be even better when I return. Who's not going to support that? In-laws, cousins, like neighbors, like it's, you know, um, yeah, I would say that it's a step by step. I figured it out. If I can't plan every week, I figure it out. I sometimes have to reschedule things, move things. They often end up working better because I'm in a better headspace and body, body mind space, and just have cleared out some of the junk that I've been holding on to, been able to release so that I am available for other things. That's absolutely true.
So, as you know, we are the kind of group of people who don't believe that you ever arrive or the growth process ever ends or that there's the one who's the all knowing, and we all see each other as equals. Yeah,
Mm.
even if the roles may shift and change depending on what's going on and unfolding. But so, since you've been so gracious in answering all of these unplanned questions, I would love to give you an opportunity to ask me a question.
Oh, wow. Yay. Okay. Um, okay, I have two. I mean,
Okay.
what inspired you to start these conversations? Because I think that um, I've witnessed your own growth and your expression of this work, um and witness the different ways in which you invite people to this conversation. What keeps you inviting people? What keeps you continuing this conversation?
So, the conversation as a whole, or this particular conversation that we're having now?
This particular conversation that we're having now.
I think one of the greatest challenges is sharing this work with people because it is something that you can only experience. And since we as human beings, our brains operate as, oh, I know this, and it puts it in that category. Oh, I've seen this before. It's similar to this, so I'll put it in this category, right? And so for me, these conversations are an opportunity for people to listen to those who are actually invested in their own growth and hear their stories and get a feel for who they are. Because, with people from all over with whole sorts of backgrounds and experiences, and to give visibility to them,
Mm,
and an opportunity for them to share if they so wish to, so that more people find out about it. And then if they so choose and they want to try it on, hey, why not?
mm.
Did that answer your question?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
cool. Yeah.
Now you said you had two, so
Yeah, so the second, the conversation as a whole.
the conversation as a whole. Oh wow. So you know, I'm a student first and foremost, and I believe that every person you come across, no matter how brief their stay in is your life or as long, and no matter any situation that arrives, it's always an opportunity to learn something. Um, and there is nothing about my life um, that looks like what I had planned.
Mm,
And this conversation not only supports me in my own continual growth in life, but it also forces me in a in a certain respect to have to pop out of
mm,
whatever I'm getting lost in my own stuff, because I need to be available for others. Because if
mm,
I get lost in my own shit, then I can't be available to listen to others.
mm,
And so it keeps me connected not just to a conceptual idea that I'm part of something bigger, but in reality, every time I get on a call with someone or a group of people, or there's like this creative idea session bouncing around, um, it's so life giving.
mm,
I was on a call with someone the other day and they were so tired when they got on, and when they got off, they were just like filled with life. It's like this lifeline to
mm,
feeling connected to a whole. Um, and I don't want to sound dramatic by saying there's such a depth of beauty to it, but to be able to be in conversation with people around the commonality of what it is to be a human being on this planet. There's just so much division. Um, More often than not, people are drawn to what they know and what seems not like them. There's this drawing back rather than curiosity. And when you get down to the layer of connecting into the humanity in
mm,
each person, what then becomes available is just off the charts.
Mm,
And if I can contribute in some way to supporting others in their growth processes I have so generously received from others, I'm like, yes,
mm,
yeah,
mm. Oh, thank you for
thank
sharing that.
you.
Mm, love that. Um,
Okay,
yeah, that's all I would say.
okay. Well, Lauren, I hope you'll agree to come on again to discuss other topics in the
Oh, yes.
future. But thank you so much for taking this time to join us today.
It is such an honor. Thank you for the invitation.
Okay, thank
Mm.
you. Bye.
Bye.